Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter. In Chicago Business Today, Groupon's biggest challenge. Since Groupon rejected a $6 billion buyout offer from Google, the question is, what now? As senior reporter John Pletz writes about in this week's print edition of Crain's, the answer is to grow and grow fast. Chief Executive Andrew Mason will need to be big to stay ahead of the thousands of clones trying to enter the market, including its former suitor, tech giant Google. John Pletz joined me to talk more about his story. So John, sources are telling you that Groupon needs to grow. Being first, of course, doesn't necessarily mean success, as we look back to names like Netscape and America Online. So what will they need to do to ensure that they still remain on top?
Well, Andrew Mason put it pretty well last week when he said, he's looked at those companies and how they lost their way, and it's mostly about focus, keeping their eye on the ball, and that's pretty tough to do when you're growing that fast. That's really the challenge, if they can keep doing the kind of growth they need, but also remember kind of where they came from and what got them where they are today.
What are sources saying about the possibility of an initial public offering of the stock? Is that something to look for in the short term?
Well, that's the assumption, that if you're not going to sell it, then you'll take it public and sell it, sell it to investors. But nobody's quite sure on the timetable. The IPO market isn't great right now.
Groupon, of course, didn't talk to you for this story, but what were the people who were talking to you saying about Groupon's biggest challenge in the short term?
Well, it's just growth. They've got to continue to grow like mad, maintain their number one position without that same growth causing them to unravel. So that's really the challenge. You've both got to get tremendous growth, but also be able to manage that growth.
And what about trying to compete with other entrants? I mean, obviously there are thousands of smaller copycats, but in your story you talked about some of the big tech giants getting into this space.
Well, and that's really the next phase for them is, the people who look like them as challengers, they've been able to handle them pretty well. But now as you've got bigger and bigger companies all looking at the space, some that are tech companies, some from outside of tech, you're doing battle with a whole bunch of different competitors on a much different scale, and that's really going to be a challenge for them.
Sure, because someone like Google, for example, has access to so many customers, right?
Right. Customers and cash, all of those things, as well as technology, and that's going to be an issue as well going forward for Groupon. They've got to continue to develop technology and to, at some point, start automating things. They are a very people-intensive business, and the more refined they can make that technology, the better off they're going to be.
What else are they going to have to do to stay on top? They're going to need to get some real top talent in here, too?
They've imported some folks from Silicon Valley, folks who had worked for either Yahoo or Netflix in the past. So they've gotten some very good talent. They're going to have to continue to get more of that talent as they scale, as they grow bigger.
Do you think we'll see another buyout offer for Groupon, or was Google probably the best offer they were going to get?
I'm sure other people will take a run at them. It's going to be an ongoing, continuing conversation. They're growing. They're attracting a lot of attention from both investors, from customers, from people who want to get into the space. So I think they're going to continue to hear from other people.
Okay, John, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. Be sure to read John's story in this week's print edition of Crain's or on chicagobusiness.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.